Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you guys are doing good. I'm going to finish watching this video here, Traveling with Kristen, see what we think. I mean, she's just been spitting facts so far about America, how it's compared to the other countries she's lived in for a long, long time. Go check out her channel, Traveling with Kristen, down below. So far, the video's been very good. She just got done talking about how fat Americans are. She said it in a much more eloquent way. Eloquent. It's not good when you can't even say the word eloquent. That's like ironic. Anyway, yeah, but it's true. Americans are pretty fat. Not gonna lie. All right, let's see.
Also drinking. I feel like people drink more.
Drink.
My friends included. It's like we don't really go
It's hard to drink a lot and not be fat.
we don't go out much right now anyway, but like when I would go to see them, it was like drink from Friday afternoon through Sunday night. And
It is sort of interesting though, because I thought in European culture, drinking, and a lot of other countries around the world, drinking is an even bigger part of the culture. Like something you really think about when you think of different countries, maybe Germany, Ireland, you know, and then like France with wine, and just Europe in general, as far as, you know, the drinking age being lower. And, you know, I've heard about how Europeans can drink on their lunch breaks sometimes, which sounds pretty cool. But so the problem is Americans, we don't really have like an admirable drinking culture. Our drinking culture is like to binge drink and OD. Yeah.
and then wake up and go to work on Monday. And I know that other countries like the UK and Ireland and pretty much a lot of countries ingest a lot of alcohol every year.
Yeah.
But I feel like the way that America
It's kind of funny just thinking about how alcohol is one thing that really connects the whole of humanity all around the globe. Just to survive in this crazy world, a lot of people need to drink some alcohol.
Americans treat
Seems
drinking,
like.
it's like always to get drunk as fast as possible
Yeah.
and just exceeding moderation. And
I mean, I'm sure it has to do with the drinking age being old, and it's kind of like a taboo thing, so that it makes people do it in stupid ways, and they're not taught from an early age how to do it responsibly.
And so that's another thing. And hey, apparently the alcohol sales have skyrocketed in
Yay.
2020, but that's probably for another reason. Speaking of being
Yeah, that's just sad, isn't it? We were all at home alone when you shouldn't be drinking. That's when the sales spiked. Not good.
at home a lot and working from home, though, I've noticed that the infrastructure is not so good. My internet in this particular apartment it goes out multiple times per day. And I don't know how many times I've called Xfinity. I've even gotten a backup with AT&T, but I looked it up and the US has pretty mediocre, moderate.
Right. Because I've heard other countries about, you know, like with Germany, Germans talk about how they use technology, you know, like an overhead projector that's really old and stuff. And I think the internet in Australia, I've heard that it's bad, even though they invented Wi-Fi. But yes, if you look at a chart of internet speeds, average internet speeds, I think Russia has some crazy high internet, but America is just like kind of pathetic.
Internet speeds.
Kind of surprising, given how many internet companies and stuff there are in America.
On the global index, but it ranks 119th out of like 206 countries when it comes to the cost. So internet,
Oh, when it comes to cost, I'm not surprised.
telecommunications, cell phone service, these things are
Wait, 119th, meaning it's expensive or not expensive?
really expensive.
I'm guessing the list was like cheapest places to live for internet, and we're all the way down at 119th.
In the US and cell phone service, these things are really expensive in the US
Okay.
and not in other places. So in
I didn't know that.
Estonia, you could pay a few euro and get like an unlimited data plan on your SIM card. Or in Mexico,
Really?
I just got 3 SIM cards for clients. It cost me like $10 each to get a data plan for 1 month. I mean, in the
$10 a month for unlimited data?
US, like your cell phone's probably going to be at least $30 or $40 a month.
They must be making some amazing profits. I never even considered that they're just making it cost that much just because they're price gouging. I would have thought there was some competition. I mean, there's really not that many carriers. It's one of those things where it's like infrastructure. So it's really hard for someone to come in and just compete with that. Oh, yeah, I'll just put up 1 million cell towers around the U.S. So now that I think about it more, it does make sense. It's almost, it's not a monopoly, but it's probably like a duopoly. The internet providers are probably all controlled by the same people secretly, and cell phone service people.
To more than $100 per month. You're probably paying over $100 for your internet and cable package, and you will be
I don't have cable, but I would be if I did.
a third of that in another country. But
Wow.
even though there's not good customer service with the monopoly style companies like telecommunications providers in the US, a positive thing I have noticed is how good the service is in general. Like if you go out to eat at a bar or a restaurant, or any service that you go to get at like a salon, retail store, people are really friendly, and the customer service
I thought we were talking about internet service or like cell phone service. I was going to say, yeah, cell phone service is pretty good. I don't know if it's not elsewhere, but if you've got one of the major carriers, you're not really going to have any trouble having cell phone service. But that's not what we're talking about. Talking about food service.
Is really good. I mean, it's a tipping society, so maybe people are working for better tips. Maybe it's just a cultural
Definitely.
thing. But I always feel like when I go out in public in the U.S., the people are really nice.
Maybe that's the one good thing about tipping culture is that the service, they're incentivized to be better. And when you get bad service, you can actually, you can tip less. I don't know. I'm trying to think of a better word for it, but yeah, you can tip less when the service sucks, and that's kind of a nice thing to have that ability. Now, some people abuse that and they just don't tip at all, even though they got good service. And of course, tipping is just super annoying in general. I think I'd rather just not do it. I will eat places specifically where I know I don't have to tip, like there's no waiter. I'll go there.
Whether they are selling me something or not. I mean, strangers strike up conversations with me quite often.
Yeah.
Could be like at the pharmacy, or waiting in line at the fresh market, or standing and watching the sunset here in Miami. I mean, Americans are very nice. And when I lived in Paris, people on the street were not talking to me. Like they were not just, oh, bonjour. No. But in the US, it's like everyone's so friendly that, hey, if they're strangers or...
Some people are a little too friendly. You know, it's funny. Some people will just walk up to you and start telling you, they'll just start telling you a story. Literally. They'll be like, well, I didn't know what? Did I consent to this? Why do I have to sit here and listen to your story? But honestly, it is, I like it. It's a friendly type of thing, especially here in the South or the Midwest. People are friendly. They talk to each other. I think it's a good thing overall.
Just friends you haven't met yet. And I really like that about the US. But I've noticed that it can be a little bit shallow. Like these are like friendly acquaintance type of conversations.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to making new friends, I found that to be particularly difficult this year. And I found dating to be particularly hard. And I have found
It is true. I don't know. There's something about, I don't know if this is different in other countries. Let me know if it's different. But it seems to me that when you become an adult, it's really hard to make friends because all the other adults are pretty well locked into their social circles and like schedules. So it's not like being a kid where it's just like, the whole world, you have no friends and you got all the free time in the world. You got nothing else to do but hang out with friends. When you're an adult, it's definitely harder. And you're not in social situations as much, like school, where people are changing. Every year you have a new class of students to meet. Man, what a great environment to make friends. School.
Conversations that I have had when I'm getting to know people has been different, like less depth than it has been during my travels. And maybe it's because when you're traveling and you're meeting foreigners in other places, you don't know when you're going to see them again. So you kind of cut through the like small talk and you get straight to really deep, kind of like existential things. And
Oh, how funny. I never at all considered that because I would love to travel abroad, but I've never got to. That's actually super interesting. It's kind of this thing where it's like talking to talking anonymously with someone online, a similar kind of thing, except you're not an asshole like you are online because you're face to face, but because, you're going to be traveling to another country next week, you might as well just pour your heart out, tell everybody how you really feel. And same to the person talking to you. You're talking to someone that's not even going to be here. You might as well dump exactly all your deepest insecurities on them and see what they think. It'd be kind of fun.
Philosophical and things about life. And even with the, even making friends with locals, like I've just had some amazing conversations in my travels, but I've noticed meeting people here, a lot of stuff centers around the day-to-day. A lot of it is kind of like gossipy, which I'm also not used to, because when you don't live in your home country, like no one talks about you because no one even knows you're there.
That's another thing I didn't consider. It's all these interesting social factors. You're a brand new slate. And I mean, you can do that here in America too. You move to a different city or state, but in a different country, people don't even know at all, like have any kind of preconceived notion about what state you're from or what city you're from or whatever. You're just, they'll have a preconceived notion about you being American, but still, that's pretty amazing to think about. It'd be quite freeing. You could really come up with a whole new type of whatever person you truly want to be.
So it's been weird to be back into this cycle of kind of like pettiness. Like one girl got mad at me.
Stupid petty Americans. Somehow I believe it. Stupid petty Americans. Damn it. You're telling me the rest of the world ain't like this? It's just some of us.
Because she said that I didn't say goodbye to her when like leaving dinner.
Oh my God.
But I did. I had to leave early, but she doesn't remember because she was really drunk.
This is hilarious. This is exactly the type of thing I was saying. You could spill all these kind of stories to someone in a foreign country because they have no idea who you're talking about. I like how she's just doing it on the internet. She's telling everybody. I don't know.
So then like her friends, like our mutual friends, told me that she was mad at me and like that sort of stuff. I'm just really not used to that after living abroad for 15 years. Or my perception is that they get wrapped up about rather insignificant things because it's kind of first world problems. Maybe it's all...
Yeah, that makes sense. I think about that all the time. It's like, oh my God. You need to relax and recognize your position in life. I guess some people would call it like privilege. That word is kind of like, I don't know, it's overused and kind of annoying. But it's like recognize your position and realize that what you're getting all upset about and pissy about, it's pretty pathetic when you realize what some other people are dealing with. And yeah. But I think that probably applies to the entire world, except for the people actually in those situations. Anyway.
The headaches and the hassles and like Murphy's Law and things that go wrong while you travel, or maybe it's being exposed to extreme poverty.
Murphy's Law, isn't that the one about like semiconductors getting twice as fast or something? I could be wrong. I fully understand that, but maybe isn't she thinking of the one where it's like if something can go wrong, then given enough time, it will go wrong. That's not. Well, let me look up Murphy's Law. Now I'm curious. I thought that was like. Oh, it is Murphy's Law. What's the thing about how computers get faster, like twice as fast every whatever? I don't know. Okay. Thank you for correcting me on that, Kristen. I'm making sure her name's Kristen. Yes. Not like Kirsten or something, you know.
And pain, like publicly, that you can see in the streets, that it's kind of made me think that like the good little things, those little moments in life are very meaningful, but like little annoyances are not important. So when people are complaining to me that someone cut them off in traffic, or someone said this to them on a Zoom call, or someone said this about so-and-so, or what was she wearing, or whatever, I'm like,
ew, what was she wearing? Ew, I hate stuff like that. I mean, luckily, there definitely are some guys like that, but I'm guessing it's more, I don't know. I guess I don't want to say that, but, you know, girls care more about what clothes they wear, typically. I don't know. Actually, guys probably say that about girls. They definitely do all the time. So I take it back. But about guys saying about another guy, not so much. Like, we don't really care about what we wear. At least my circle of friends. Anyway.
you know, I've
But that kind of stuff, yeah, super annoying.
seen what it's like living in slums and living in a landfill, and having never been outside the gates of that landfill. And I know what it's like to live without electricity and not know what a window is because you've never had a window in your house. Like, what?
Well, that's like a whole different type of thing. You know what I mean? Like, as far as comparing, most of this is thinking about the U.S. versus Europe, which most of Europe is not like this. But as far as the U.S. versus, or like any first world country versus a third world country, yeah, that would be a really great life experience that I think a lot of Americans would hugely benefit to have. And the rest of the Americans, would benefit if those Americans had it too, because some people need to be put into perspective.
House? Like, what is glass? When I lived in Nicaragua
What is glass?
and I was
Wow.
managing the construction on an office, I had to actually explain to the construction workers like how to install the window because they didn't have windows in their houses. So it's like, when you have that perspective, I don't want to sound pretentious because I know that I've had like a lot of opportunities and privileges to travel, but it also humbles you and grounds you.
That is a little bit, well, you know, that actually, I was going to say that's like a catch-22. No, it's the opposite. Because the people with the most money can afford to travel around the world. And maybe by doing so, they'll become, because those people are also usually the more pretentious among us. Maybe they'll learn something, get a new perspective. Yeah, yeah.
And so when I hear
Maybe.
even my family members talking about silly, trivial things that happened, I'm just like, get over it. Like, none of that is important. Let's not waste our time having a negative conversation about something that really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of the world. Another thing that was
That would
quite
be so amazing if people could adopt that perspective.
shocking when I first got here was how intense the mainstream media was. And obviously coronavirus is a big topic in the news everywhere in the world. But overall in the US, it seems to be this cycle of like fear, politics, violence, healthcare, and then just like outrage over everything. And
It's definitely outrage over everything, and it's division. It's all, you turn on the news sucks here in America. Oh my gosh, like, it sucks. You turn on the news, and a lot of people don't even realize it, but they're being fed a twist where if they flipped the channel, they'd be hearing the exact opposite twist on what happened. And it's just like such crap. When I watch the news, I just want to hear the news. Just tell me the facts of what happened. But it almost seems impossible here in America now to not get someone's opinion that I didn't ask for.
And other countries obviously cover these topics and cover politics and things.
I mean, you watch news. It blows my mind. You watch news from 40 years ago, 50 years ago. The newscasters are like stone-faced. They're just reporting the news, the facts. Nowadays, It's the opposite, and it's trash.
In their news, but most other countries have a public option in their healthcare system, or healthcare is free, or it's included in your taxes or whatever, or they don't have
It must be nice.
as big of health problems as we do. So it's not like always the main focus of the conversation in the news. And other countries also have political debates and different sides and different ideologies and perspectives, but most countries have more than two main political parties. So it's not like this us versus them mentality all the time.
It's super interesting because it's kind of ironic having more political parties actually. So dividing the population up into more political parties actually makes them less divided, because it's the way it is here in America. It really is like us and them. They are the others. You're either A or you're B. But in other countries, it's like most people you meet, I mean, here in America, it's like, half the people you meet are the same political party. But in other countries, it's probably not that way. So you kind of have to figure out how to reconcile being friends. You can still be friends with someone in a different political party, usually.
Kind of more diluted and distributed among different groups. I'm not saying that there's any right or wrong way, but it definitely makes sense when I look at the culture of the US, how everything has kind of become simplified and gamified. So it's kind of like, red versus blue, my football team versus your football team, this state rivalry versus another state. And
it's so weird. People will say like they're a Republican or a Democrat, and then they'll almost defend it. Like no matter, even when something like someone in their party does something bad, they'll like try to defend it. And it's like, yo, just because we're not on teams, like you can just say it was bad or whatever. You don't have to defend that person. Don't screw them. But people get really weird about it. Here.
This city versus that city, or us versus them. And so I don't know, I think that maybe that comes from a lot of different things, but it's really not necessary. But at the end of the day, people are inherently good. And that doesn't matter what country you're from. So in America, I think
that's good to hear from someone who traveled around the world. I mean, that can be, if you just read the internet, like I do, that's my main outlet to the world, including people around in the U.S. You would think people were inherently bad. Like, I think if you just gave the internet a tablet to an alien and said, this is the United States, or this is the world population, you can read their conversations online. They'd be like, these people suck.
I think most people are good. It's just that people get dehumanized. And so when you don't have face-to-face or individual interaction with the other side, it can be really easy to just be against something, like an idea or a person or a group of people. And that gets propagated a lot in the media, and it's just more pronounced and more in your face. I think overall the biggest thing
And most people are born into whatever political beliefs they have. I mean, maybe that's how it is. It sort of makes sense. You're raised by, your parents teach you values and stuff. Of course, when you're growing up, and especially as an adult, you can try to figure it out on your own. But most people just are born into it and never really question it. And yeah, they're either team A or team B.
I've noticed is that the US is a bit of like a walking contradiction and a paradox. We are told that the US is the best at most things or has the best everything, but that's not necessarily true. So I heard a guy on...
I will say, and I've mentioned this before, like in America, you have two types of people. People who think America is the best and is the best at everything in the world, or the other type of American thinks America is like a total embarrassment and hates America. That's how you, and there are a lot there's probably more in Camp A, but Camp B is pretty big too.
The news saying, yeah, we have the best healthcare system in the world, but blah, blah, blah. Like he had to...
I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that. Well, not recently. My gosh. People are on hard times, with the housing market and the economy and inflation. And healthcare is just another thing, just absolutely demolishing your bank account and paycheck. So I don't think too many people are happy with the healthcare system in America right now.
Preface what he was saying with propaganda. Like, the US doesn't have the best healthcare system in the world. Like, it doesn't make the top of
Really? France #1. Didn't know that.
world rankings for the peace index, happiness, safety, education. I mean,
Happiness is a big one. I mean, that's pretty crazy, huh? 17 other countries more happy.
we're just not the best.
I guess it's not surprising when the people have like 1 week of vacation a year and 3 sick days.
At everything, like internet speed. So it's just keeping things in perspective and realizing that not everything is what it seems. There's something called the Hofstede Index, which ranks
Hofstede.
countries
Sounds German.
by different variables, like how individualistic or collectivist they are. And each country can get a different score. And when I studied this in college, I found it
I think it seems like Asian countries, like especially China comes to mind, people are very collectivist minded. I don't know. I'm trying to think of European countries. I don't know.
so interesting.
I guess more so than America. America definitely is very individualistic.
Interesting, because I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know that the US was an ethnocentric, individualistic country. So, obviously more capitalist than socialist, whereas other countries like.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess you could just look at like a political system or economic system, like capitalist versus socialist, and where on that scale they are. And I guess that would basically tell you individualist versus collectivist.
India or countries in Latin America are more collectivist, which means that the community is put before the individual. And so since the industrial times, the US has gotten more individualistic and people have become more separated and more spread out. And I think that that could be one of the causes of the problems that we're facing in modern day society, especially with people taking on 100% of the responsibility for childcare and remote learning. And
Yeah, it's extremely interesting to think about. And I'm relating it back in my mind to us being 18th on the happiness scale. I don't know. Humans were meant to live in groups, like tribes. It's pretty obvious just living in life. You realize that people are generally most happy when they're in a group setting. Like a lot of people look back on their days in high school or something. And even though back then maybe they hated it, but they look back on it, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun. Even though you were locked up in a building having to learn stuff you didn't want to learn, you still had a lot of fun because you're in like a group of people, and just being so individualistic and like, I don't know, it seems like against nature.
and both parents having to work full-time jobs to put food on the table and still being below the poverty line, and like all of these other issues in the US. I mean, coming back to the US during this time has reminded me a bit of why I've basically dedicated my entire life to helping people figure out ways that they can live life on their own terms so that they don't have to remain stuck in one physical geographic place or in.
Interesting. I wonder what she does, because she's talked a lot about like real estate stuff, building an office and selling real estate. I wonder what her job is.
One paradigm or in one way of thinking. So if you're thinking of traveling somewhere or moving somewhere, just pursue that curiosity and keep trying to open.
It's funny because it's so much easier said than done. Unless you're really young and just don't have anything like tying you down. But it really is easier said than done to go live somewhere else. You just have so many from small to large, anchors mainly relationships with family and friends and jobs and stuff, and fear that keep you locked down.
Open your worldview. Before I publish this video, I just have one more reflection for you. The United
Oh, this is interesting. I mean, she was like, I have to say this. You know what I mean? I can't put up this video without saying this. So
States of America is a phenomenal country, full of hundreds of millions of amazing people. But my perception is that in many ways, we have been taught more to value hard work and independence, sometimes at the expense of logic, empathy, and humanity.
Yeah, that does make sense. And it manifests itself in things like healthcare. And the fact that we don't, like so many Americans actively fight against a universal healthcare system and stuff, and they'll fight against their own. There's just not a big culture of fighting for like workers' rights in America. Even there's a lot of people who hate unions, like workers' unions, like they hate them here in America. And it's pretty sad because especially it seems like as time goes on, like hard work, it's always taught to you here in America, at least, hard work. If you work hard, you will succeed in America. If you work hard, you'll succeed. But it seems like there's been some traps laid down to where companies have gotten so big, they've lost their souls and they'll trick you into, work really hard. Yeah, that's how you're going to succeed. But then they just keep you down there at the low level. And yeah.
It goes without saying that the capitalist U.S. system has resulted in more freedom, more wealth, more innovation, and more opportunity.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to spout, I don't know. I think capitalism has a lot of great qualities, like she's saying, and it just needs to be really tightly regulated.
Opportunity for countless people in multiple generations across the planet. However, the system isn't perfect, and it doesn't always work in the best interest of individual people. So
a lot of times people will vote against their own. It's a weird thing. Someone in a certain tax bracket. I mean, of course, that's not how you should vote. You shouldn't always vote based off, oh, this is going to save me money if this person wins. But it's weird that some people will vote, like a poor person in America might vote Republican for economical reasons, but those economical reasons are not helping them. It's just kind of weird. Like, yeah, I hate welfare, as they are living in poverty. Explain that.
When contemplating your unique place in this completely wondrous time of human history that we find ourselves living in right now, how can you ensure that you're living your life in accordance with your values, your principles, and your goals?
Too much pressure. No.
While
that's a good thing to think about.
Being discerning in what you consume, whether that's what you read or what you eat or what you buy. And equally important, how you react to the many distractions and temptations and the noise of the external world.
This is one of those deep conversations she has traveling abroad, huh?
gratitude for the conditions that we find ourselves in on the planet right now, but also acknowledging and confronting the very real challenges of modern day life can help us diagnose where we are feeling stuck and where we're feeling unhappy. In 1770, two men, John Hancock and Samuel Adams.
This girl's very smart. Can I just say that? I like the way she's very eloquent and smart.
Made a decision to speak up, and they took actions that would, in the words of Napoleon Hill, spark the revolution that would, quote, change the entire trend of civilization. And he also writes, the power which gave this nation its freedom is the self-same power that must be used by every individual who becomes self-determining. The power that gave this nation its freedom must be used by each and every individual in his or her individual path in life. The ability to travel, to solo travel, as
That was, I don't think I can speak to that. That was a cool quote.
a female in the world today is not lost on me. And it has given me such clarity in my worldview, but also in my sense of self. And in a degree of confidence that I don't think that I could have attained in any other way. And my goal in making this channel was to pass on.
She does give off this vibe of being like enlightened. Like her travels clearly have shaped and progressed her mind in a very cool way.
That gift to I can't say it. Okay. To millions of people that I've never met and will never meet. And so I hope that my videos and this video have helped you make more sense of the world and your unique place in it.
It did.
Because I believe that all of us are here for a reason. And we're here to help each other on this crazy.
Imagine that. I thought we were here to fight. Fight each other. May only the best survive. The others can fall down the hill into despair if I am standing atop it. No, she's right.
Crazy journey. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And now let's get back to the conclusion of this video.
Get back to it. I thought that was
That
this.
was kind of a long, rambling video, but
Already liked it. Wow, dang, traveling with Kristen. I'm going to go have an existential crisis at the ending of that video. Go check out her channel. That was great. I don't even know how to follow all that up. Except to say thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I hope you're there. I will be. Goodbye.